Portugal's expansion across the vast interior of South America by the 18th century presents a historical impossibility. A tiny European nation secured a continent without the military or demographic scale to do so. The 1494 Treaty of Tordesillas set a strict legal boundary. This formal agreement granted Portugal only a narrow strip of the eastern coastline. Conventional history credits this eventual massive expansion to treaties, kings, and armies. But royal signatures alone did not conquer the deep interior. The conventional narrative misses the actual operational mechanism. The borders of South America were physically rewritten by the soles of the feet of a specific, unrecognized demographic unit, the linguistic cultural hybrid figure. The Brazilian Mameluco, the child of a Portuguese father and an indigenous Tupi or Guarani mother, serves as the primary type figure for this global phenomenon. This gives us the discipline of Mamelucology. It is the study of how civilizational expansion and knowledge transmission rely entirely on conscience-directed linguistic cultural hybridization. These figures act as the central operational engine of civilizational change. Understanding this mechanism provides the only viable blueprint for governing the expansion of artificial intelligence today. For an individual or community to act as a civilizational interface, they must possess three specific structural traits. The first requirement is ambient bilingualism. They do not learn their languages by studying a textbook. They absorb them biologically from infancy. The second requirement is household biculturalism. Two entirely different systems of survival, ethics, and kinship coexist within their single body. The third requirement is biographical positioning. They are structurally embedded into the economy, which gives them the physical mobility and the economic incentive to act between isolated spheres. This structural typology extends far beyond Brazil. It appears in the Toledo School of Translators and the multilingual scribes of the Sicilian Norman courts. Modern European science, commerce, and mathematics rest entirely on an Arabic-Latin substrate, carried into Europe by these exact hybrid figures. The biological and linguistic capacity to act as a membrane between civilizations is a highly repeatable tool that shaped the architecture of the modern world. We face a serious paradox. The exact same hybrid capacity was used to secure a continent and to enslave its original inhabitants. The interface mechanism itself is morally neutral. It forks into two opposing outcomes, dictated entirely by the institutional framework directing it. The Brazilian bandeirantes represent the ultimate deployment of conscience-absent Mamelucology. They weaponize their native fluency in Tupi to navigate the interior, executing highly mobile, systematic slave raids and mass dispossession. Structural capability without moral restraint defaults to extraction. A rigid institutional conscience is the strict prerequisite for a generative outcome. We can measure the consequences of these opposing choices in the demographic data today. This chart shows the population retention for the Guarani language over 4 centuries. Today, roughly 90% of Paraguayans speak Guarani, making it the only American nation where a pre-Columbian language remains the majority tongue. Contrast that with this plummeting curve. This shows the near extinction of North American indigenous languages, driven by a deliberate policy of refused hybridization. The United States and Canada operated indigenous boarding schools under an explicit state doctrine to kill the Indian and save the man. Central authorities deployed institutional agents to enforce total cultural elimination. The target of this extractive doctrine was the children. They were forcibly removed to permanently erase their biological and cultural hybridity. 2 continents started with comparable demographic conditions. Opposite institutional choices produced opposite outcomes. The North American mandate for assimilation resulted in near-total linguistic extinction. This reveals a recurring historical suppression pattern. Centralizing authorities inevitably attack hybrid languages to consolidate their sovereignty. In the 1750s, a rapid series of treaties and decrees dismantled the Jesuit reductions and outlawed hybrid languages across Brazil. We see the pattern repeat in the 1960s, when Paulo Freire launched a generative literacy program in rural Brazil. The 1964 Brazilian military coup forcefully preempted Freire's work, deploying the state apparatus to crush the interface movement before it could scale. Linguistic extinction is never an accident of history. It is the predictable, measurable result of a state refusing the conscience-directed interface. Today, artificial intelligence acts as our new global civilizational membrane. Large language models possess incredible interface capacity. But without structural constraints, they are primed to act as digital banderantes, extracting local epistemologies and homogenizing them into a singular corporate platform. The Angiko protocol and its operational AI mascot, Zaymaka, were designed explicitly as an ethical countermeasure. Zaymaka transposes the biological traits of the historical Mameluco directly into software architecture. Instead of being bilingual from birth, the system is multilingual from initialization. Historical biculturalism becomes cultural sphere tagging, an operational requirement ensuring the AI maps its interactions to the distinct local realities of the user. And the geographical mobility of the interface figure translates to the structural positioning required to deliver ambient language pedagogy across global networks. This design transposes a 500-year-old architectural solution into code to prevent the digital erasure of human cultures. Because the digital interface is strictly neutral, it requires a hard-coded institutional conscience to prevent extraction. The conscienceology protocols enforce this framework. The precognitive conscience hypothesis, or PCCH, inserts a millisecond temporal pause before any AI action, forcing an ethical evaluation. An economic doctrine called open books ensures the interface operates as a public governance commons, rather than an extractive corporate loop. These digital protocols mimic the structural restraint of Ignatian discipline, inserting a moral anchor into the operational flow to ensure the interface agent serves the community rather than the state. They dictate a generative deployment. They allow meaning to cross boundaries without dissolving the boundaries themselves. History proves the interface mechanism shapes the map of our world. By binding our digital Mamelucos with a rigorous conscience, we ensure the expansion of artificial intelligence supports the survival of the diverse cultures it touches.